Frankie, at the start of the season, I remember saying to Gon, so I've got a little prediction. It wasn't a wild one, just a small one, which was after the first international break, I'd be sitting here going, our season starts now. I don't think it's come true, actually. I do feel it was a fair, realistic prediction. And I find myself today, tomorrow, probably going into this game against Fulham thinking right now, we can see what Lopetegui's got up his sleeve. However, he's been thrown a little bit of a curveball on the old injury table, but we'll discuss that in just a second. But what are you hoping to see from West Ham post-international break?
I think you were spot on, weren't you, really? I think it made a lot of sense. I think we probably maybe seen a little bit more than I thought we would have in the first 3 games. But I think he was exactly right. And I actually said to you recently that these next 2 games are really going to let us know where we actually are. So I think it was actually quite a good time for a break. I think it came at the right time where we can assess what we've done in those first 3 games and what are we looking at, now moving forward. So at the City game, obviously, we didn't get much. Difficult. After a decent performance, I guess there'll be some people saying actually after that you could have done with going on to the next one and then, building upon that to some degree. But I actually think it was a good time to step away, have a look at what we've learnt from those first 3 games and see what we're going to do now moving forward. I just think that, that Fulham game for me still firmly in my memory. Last season, dragging the boy across London at 5 years old, freezing cold. I mean, it was so cold, you couldn't believe it. Get to Fulham, pull him up the stairs. There's people slipping down this stairway. It was so dangerous. And then one of our fans obviously went down and really badly hurt himself. So that was all blocked off and we couldn't get down. He wants a hot dog, can't take him down because the stairwell was all shut off. And then come out and have to drag him all the way back in the rain across London again to get home. All after a massive 5-0 spanking. So it's there. It's in the memory. However, mate, we stood and we sang for literally there was just a few people left, but the ones who remained just made noise for the entire match. And it was a good lesson for the youngster. It was, look, even if you're getting beat and even if you're down on your luck and things aren't going well for you, you still stand proud and you still sing the team on and you try and do what you can for them. So that's there. I want to turn it around, mate. That's this. I know that's been and gone and it's done. I want a little bit of revenge on them, to be honest with you. I want us to go out there, and so I've got big hopes for these next 2 games. And I think we really need to see us, like you say, season starts now. Fulham's the first game that we've got in this little run that we're going to go on now post international window, and I want to get started with a good, solid, strong result. And put those demons of last season to bed.
Well, we did it at Selhurst Park, didn't we?
We did.
A few weeks ago. We rocked up at a place that we got spanked at last season where your boy might have had PTSD there as well as Craven Cottage, and we came away with the wins. I'm hoping we can put in a similar type of performance, maybe a slightly one just as effective, but maybe a slightly better one. And I'm interested to see what Lopetegui does given the injury news. I think the only downside of the international break is that a lot of the players aren't there. A lot of the players have been away with their countries, but there was a little bit of footage that I caught last week, which is, I say, interesting. It's needs must really, but he still had Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, and Emerson on the training ground. He also had Todibo as well. Now, obviously, Mavropanos away with Greece, but Todibo's there, so he's had 2 weeks really with what could be his first choice back four on the training pitch, which could become quite important for them. Obviously, some players like Carlos Soler there as well, but the majority of the players, the spine of the team, if you like, with Kudus, Paqueta, Bowen, Alvarez, all the way on. Well, Alvarez actually, he stayed at Russell Green, didn't he? He was. He didn't go on international break. He wasn't called up for Mexico, so he's had a lot of players available to him. But he's also missing a lot of players. Lopetegui, but one player he will be missing after picking up an injury during the international break. Now, I should say that the news coming out the club at the minute is slightly positive. They don't think it's anything too serious, and it could be a 3-week layoff for Fullkrug rather than weeks rather than months, if you like. So I guess that's good news off the back of what could be worst case scenario. Your reaction to this, Frankie? A bit disheartening?
It is, and everyone will know that I may not be the biggest believer in Fullkrug as somebody who's going to be our answer to our striker problem that we've had in the last, well, quite many years now, really, that we don't seem to find that out-and-out striker that we all long for. So, but he's been putting himself about. I think that Crystal Palace game, he really did show that he can mix it up, that he can become, while we may not be someone who's going to set the world alight, take on a few players and everything else, actually, he's quite a good utility player with the players that we've got in and around him, be Bowen and Kudus. If he can, win that ball and allow them to get higher up the pitch and have chances, then he could actually have been a real positive for our other forward and more attacking-minded players. So when it's him or Antonio, and the way that Antonio started this season, I was really hoping that he would kind of be the man, on the team sheet and starting the matches and building confidence a little bit, hopefully get his first goal and then try and kick on from there. So the fact that we're missing him, I'm more disappointed and disheartened by it because he's our only other option. If we'd have signed Duran or we would have had another attacking option in there, I maybe not have been totally gutted that he's going to miss 3 or so weeks. So it is really just because the other options available to us while it's such a sore one, I guess.
I think there's still plenty options for Lopetegui, though. Now, it is sort of square pegs and round holes a little bit, though. But there is a natural replacement. You want to go Danny Ings. The context around Michail Antonio, for those watching, is that he plays tonight at 3 a.m. So 3 a.m. Wednesday morning he plays, or he's expected to play for Jamaica. So it could be a late return to West Ham for him as well. So with that in mind and the injury to Fullkrug, what are you hoping to see Lopetegui do against Fulham in regards to that striking department?
To be honest, I remember in pre-season I said when we had Somerville, Bowen and Kudus all on the pitch, it was really exciting. So it's the opportunity to see that, I think. So, yeah, that's how I would probably go, where they're all positioned across that front row. I think Somerville's the only one we know where he'll start. I just feel like it just seems that Bowen is the one that we're always going to give the middle of the pitch to. I don't see that changing. So for me, it could be Kudus right, Bowen down the middle and Somerville on the left.
Is that what you want to see?
It's what I want to see.
Bit of a prediction as well.
Yeah, it's what I want to see. It's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think so. I'm okay with Kudus as the central one up front because of what I've seen from him in an Ajax shirt. If that's the way he wants to go, I'm sort of okay with either option, to be honest with you. If anything, I'd like it to switch if needs.
Yeah, that's right.
Game. I think one thing I have noticed is our sort of post corners routine when defending corners. We are putting Bowen down the middle anyway, and sort of Kudus is becoming the runner, and Antonio's been going out to the left because he's coming to the 18-yarder to help defend the set pieces. So we have had situations in the last game in particular against Man City where Bowen found himself central. I'd imagine that's what Lopetegui will opt for, which is just putting Bowen down the middle. Now, there was a lot of talk that we were perhaps signing a centre-back, Frankie, but it appears that will not be the case. Extra Time employee reporting there's only a 5% chance of signing Sheffield United's former centre-back, John Egan. We discussed this last week, and neither of us were particularly keen. And often I'll say not signing on player feels like good news, but I do feel like that's the case here. I wasn't upset when I seen that news earlier.
No, if there's any way that we can abandon the easy option to go free at the back, I'm quite for it, because I just want to see us more on the front foot. I think we've got a good enough players to play more on the front foot. So although, in pre-season, when we had that kind of back five transition into a back four with somebody moving more into midfield and stuff, it looked all right. So I kind of felt that's what he might have been getting at, wanting that extra defender in there. I mean, I was looking forward to Todibo, and he was the one who I was almost tipping to. But I always said Max Kilman's going to become almost the cult hero for us. I always said at the end of the season, I think he'd be someone we'd look back on and think actually it was really good value for money, even though people thought it was overpriced. But Todibo was the one I was excited about, but his Bournemouth performance was very iffy. He looked so uncomfortable on the ball, just like it looked like his legs were stuck in the mud. The ball would come to him and he would really struggle to sort his feet out, and the passes he was playing was very, very strange. So I don't know what happened to him on that Bournemouth game, but it certainly wasn't the sort of performances that I'd seen him play for his previous club. So I don't know. It seemed like it was something that Lopetegui was specifically asking for. It was almost like he'd said, this is what I need to, be able to achieve the things that I need to this season. I hope that we're not getting him, or by us not getting him, it isn't going to be because we couldn't find someone. And it's that they've probably sat down and had a chat and they've thought, well, actually, yeah, maybe we're okay. And if they feel like we're okay, then I'm all for it. Like I said to you before, I'm firmly believing in Stuyton and what's happening at West Ham at the moment with the window and so on. So if they've come to that conclusion that actually it's not that necessary and we're okay, then I'm good with that. I just hope it's not that the manager said that's what I need and we haven't been able to go and find the right person to come in. And I know sometimes that's just not available maybe, but I never buy that too much. I always think there's so many players out there that, if you need to go and find a centre-half, you should be able to find someone. So
the thing is, though, it's a very small pool at the minute because we're looking in the free agents collection. And I would suggest that maybe there isn't there's players there who are big profiles. You think, oh, surely they can do a job. But I think I actually like the fact that we're being quite careful, even in the January transfer window. Now, I don't think it was a good transfer window. It was I've discussed this period. It was a bad window, but I'd rather sign nobody than the wrong player, if that makes sense. Now, it turns out we did with Calvin Phillips. However, that was Moyes' pick. It was like, there's your guy. I'm going to go get my guy now, which was supposedly Abraham Osman, and it fell through. But once it fell through, and we've discussed the reasons why, but once we fell through, it was okay. So, we're not going to go waste money and get anybody else in. We have a specific requirement, and if we can't find a player, we're going to wait till the next window and try and go get somebody else in to fill the role we're looking for, rather than every signing's a risk. But I think you want to eliminate as much of that as possible. And if you're bringing in somebody you're not particularly keen on, that's just increasing that anymore. And also the likelihood of it working out, I'd imagine, is lesser, and it just costs money as well. We've seen many transfers at West Ham where players have come in, whether it be big wages, big fees, or sometimes a combination of both, and it never really felt like a good one from the start, and turns out it wasn't a good one. And in the end, we're giving them away or we're paying them to leave the club, and I want to get away from that. And I think part of that is just by being careful in the transfer market. And if we've gone and looked at the free centre-backs and thought, okay, maybe Matip, no, maybe actually his injuries are putting us off. What about Egan? Let's get him in, give him a trial game. I thought, no, I don't really like the look. I mean, if he didn't impress against Dagenham and Redbridge, then it can't be that great. I'd rather we go, look, let's just trust Casey. Let's use Alvarez if we have to, rather than splashing out some money and getting somebody in for a year. Like I said, they've missed pre-season, so by the time they're up and running, whoever it is, you're into October. Well, you're only 3 months away from the January transfer window opening up.
Yeah.
I think you're just as well holding on to your money and waiting until the January transfer window comes in and spending time between now and then doing your scouting, doing your research, identifying, have a look at players at clubs who may become available in the January transfer. I'm pretty sure Chelsea will have a centre-back available on loan, possibly Tosin. That would be my prediction, that Tosin perhaps barely sees a sniff at Chelsea and may be available on loan in the January transfer window if we need one. Somebody that may also be available in January transfer window, and outgoing rather than incoming Frankie, only on loan, I should stress here, only on loan, is Lewis Orford, because his situation's changed dramatically. It took a little while for them to announce it, but it's been done for quite some time. But the club have last week only just announced that Orford has signed a new long-term contract, currently injured at the moment, but still really good news.
Yeah, it is, because we've seen a lot exit when they come to sort of end of contract terms, and it seems like people have just been almost wanting to to get away. So the fact that someone's very happy to stick around and believes in what we do, and who knows? Like a lot of people will put that down to the managerial change and the setup changes at West Ham, and maybe that they're seeing that there potentially is opportunities down the line now. Who knows why people or why the youngsters were choosing to exit quite quickly when we was tipping them to potentially come good for us in the future. So, but yeah, it's nice to have someone that's stuck around who's standing by us and believes that he will get his opportunities for his career. So yeah, it's good news. You know, he is someone that's always been sort of tipped to be the pick of the bunch, if you like. So yeah, the fact that we've got him secured for a longer term is good. Now it's just trying to find that development route for him. We haven't seen enough of that in recent years, and is that like you say, he goes out on loan and finds some football somewhere. But that league down there, I went to a League One game. I went to see Charlton at the weekend because obviously it was the international break. Dan Potts was down there. He's gone to Charlton now.
My cogs were going. I'm sure they've just signed a former West Ham player in the last week.
There was a few. Jordan Hugill was playing for the other Rotherham up front. So Hugill come on, was putting himself around. So it was quite interesting seeing Connor Coventry's there. So it was good seeing a lot of the West Ham boys. But mate, it's a spiteful old league down there, mate. The Rotherham had a player called Kelly who was an absolute animal, mate. He weren't holding back, and it weren't just the challenges he was putting in, but he was winding people up while he was doing it. I'd hate to play up against a player like that, but you know, I guess in the old days they saw that as good learning curves, and it's things that good for your development and so on. Mate, it's just a different league. The ref lets a lot go down there. If you want to see like football rewind 20 years, that's League One. It is just the rest don't pull up for many fouls. They let the play go. There's elbows going. There's proper studs up challenges going in, and the game just carries on. So, I mean, it's a proper throwback, and you do look sometimes and you think, oh, like it's just a different game, like completely. It isn't Premier League football, so it does raise questions on how much they will learn for their Premier League careers down there. Connor Coventry is a regular starter down there now. He's playing every single game. I mean, he looks like he's just drilled differently to the other players. He looks like he's had a different career path, and you see the Premier League way of playing in him. But even that sometimes, because other players are not like on his wavelength and are not looking for the ball like he does when he gets his head up. I mean, it's a lot of long diagonal balls constantly, and you can see him. He wants to play a bit. He receives the ball. He quickly turns. He looks up and he's like, right, let's play. And no one wants the ball. Like, it is just, we're going long and that's it. So, yeah, it's when you watch the football and then you talk about where we're going to send our sort of youngsters out to, you sit there and you just think, how much do they learn from that? Maybe being in and around the first team, and you know, maybe that is better. I don't know. So I think after seeing what I've been seeing over the last couple of years in League One, I think the Championship is where I would send players out. Any lower than that, and I know we had obviously players out in League One and so on, and they had good seasons and stuff like that, but yeah, it's a different game, mate. Different game.
Yeah, the more I see in here, the more I'm convinced we need reserve team football to come back. Old school reserve team football, where, you know, earlier in the season we'd have had Cornet playing on the left, Ings up front, but then you had Orford in midfield, Earthy in the number 10. You just had a real mix of youngsters and senior players that weren't playing on the Saturday. They'd be playing reserve team football during the week. And that would be their apprenticeship. And when you speak to the likes of Anton Ferdinand, he's convinced that that's the best thing possible, because he didn't go out on loan. He said, you know, there was a lot of people in his team in the academy were going out on loan and not really playing, but he was playing reserve team football. But that was his experience. That was him getting ready for it. He was playing next to someone like Malky Mackay, for example, in a reserve game, and thinking, first of all, I can learn from him a little bit, but second of all, more importantly, I'm better than him. I'm already better than him. So he's going up to Pardew, going, excuse me, I should be in the team ahead of this guy. Get me in there. But he was playing up against men every week rather than other 17, 18, 19-year-olds who physically he was able to match them. He was up against bigger strikers who were giving them a difficult game, but also just a little bit more clever in the thinking. When the positioning was a little bit better, the runs were a little bit better. So he's convinced he learned far more playing reserve team football than he would have done in today's game, where he goes out on loan somewhere for a season or two. But who knows? Who knows? Frankie, last thing then, looking ahead to Fulham, we've discussed the striker situation and stuff, but how you feeling ahead of the game? Do you reckon we're going to win, etc.? Any thoughts you've got on that one?
Yeah, I'm confident. Like I said, that 5-0's got to be put to bed. We've got to come out there and do a job of them. Look, Fulham are a good side. We saw that last year. They seem to have made some really good signings. As you know, I had old Anderson in my dream team at the beginning of the season. They've snipped him from Crystal Palace. They seem to have made some really clever moves in the transfer window. So they're a good side. It's definitely not going to be an easy game. We've got those demons from last season, but yeah, I want us to go and deal with that appropriately and go and get a nice convincing win to get us back up and running again. And like you say, almost kickstart our season. And yeah, just start marching forward. We've got Chelsea after that, which obviously I want us to... they're not all... I know they're looking a bit better than they did last season, but they're not all firing all cylinders yet. So I firmly feel we can get a result there. And then Brentford, I've put myself in for some tickets for Brentford. So I haven't been to that ground yet. I want to go there and I want to see us do a number on them. So we've got 3 games there, all starting with Fulham.
And then Ipswich at home.
Then Ipswich at home.
So it's even...
Yeah. So, look, let's go and try and get, if you can go and... I think people's expectations would be if we can get 2 wins out of those 4 and we can get a draw in one of the others, that will probably be enough. I want to try and see us get 3 wins out of that. If we can get 3 wins out of that, we're really kicking on then. I think a lot of people's questions will be answered. I think a lot of people will settle down in terms of, is Lopetegui this? Is he the right man? Are we going in the right direction? So I think now's the time where he's got it's a big test for Lopetegui, really, as a manager. I think these next 4 games are really important. And at the end of these 4 games, 3 or 4 games, I think we'll really see, because I think that question's unanswered. You hear some people go, and Harry Redknapp, I heard you talking to him the other day, West Ham are going to be in that 7 or 8. Other people think sort of mid-table. I think you're going to get your answer at the end of these 4 games, mate. So,
I don't disagree. I do think it's sort of not make or break, but it's like we're a way to get a substantial amount of evidence in regards to how Lopetegui wants to play, who's going to be involved, who's not going to be involved. I'm glad the transfer window's done now. I think that's a horrible distraction when you're trying to get the season up and running. The likes of Cornet, we had Ward-Prowse, literally last game, well, not Man City, but the previous 3 before that, including the Cup one. We had the likes of Ward-Prowse to select from. It's done now. We now know the squad we've got for the rest of the season. So I think those 4 league games, obviously got the Liverpool Cup game as well. But in terms of the league stuff, those 4, I think will give us a real idea. So when we go into the next international break, we'll know what we're looking like. And it's hard to predict what West Ham's going to achieve this season. When we say, what's the league table going to look like come May? It's hard to pick a spot for West Ham. It could be 7th, it could be 8th, it could be 13th or 14th. But I think this next month, you might start to form a real opinion as to what you expect from West Ham come May time. Frankie, give us your score prediction then. I think you're going to go for a win, but give me your score.
2-0.
Ooh, we'd love that. I'll take that, Frankie. Hope you're correct. But anyway, I'll catch up with you next week. But if you guys at home have enjoyed this podcast, please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up and subscribe to YouTube. Hammers Chat, for those who are into Fantasy League, we'll be back later on this week with our Fantasy League video ahead of this weekend, where we will discover, have myself and Frankie either A, hit the wild card, or B, if we have or perhaps haven't, have we now got Salah and Haaland in our team ahead of the weekend? We'll be revealing on, discussing some of the best players to pick in Fantasy League ahead of the weekend. So that'll be up Thursday or Friday. Just keep your eyes out. Usual content coming back up. I like international break. I'm one of the few people that do like international break. I think it's because it's a bit different. When you support Scotland, it's a bit different. The Nations League's important to us. I appreciate why it perhaps isn't for England, especially now you've been relegated. But I like it. However, I'm looking forward to club football returning this weekend. Tough beating Scotland and the West Ham fans, though. That is two games, last minute winners conceded against Poland and Portugal. It's tough life. Anyway, thank you very much. We'll catch you next week.